So I wasn't planning on doing a video today. Sometimes it's kind of nice to take some days off, but after we received some interesting reports on trade rumors that the Bulls are exploring, and after I had a lot of you guys messaging me to talk about this, I figured I'll touch on it and give my opinion on the matter. Now, for those that don't know, this was the recent article that came out from Mark Stein that the Bulls are showing interest in the Spurs center Jakob Poeltl. Now, I want to start off by saying, I don't take any trade rumors or reports that come out of the Bulls that seriously, because we should know by now that the Bulls front office is very quiet in their handlings when it comes to trades and transactions. Not all the time, but for the most part, they don't let things leak. That being said, though, Mark Stein is one of the more credible NBA insiders in the business. He's right up there with guys like Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania. So when a report comes out from him that, based on his camp, and what they're saying is that the Bulls are showing interest in Poeltl, there might be some truth to it. All that being said, though, I don't see the Bulls trading for Poeltl actually coming to fruition for a number of reasons, and I'll explain why in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So first and foremost, I want to start by saying that I think Jakob Poeltl would be an amazing pickup for the Bulls if they were able to get him. I don't want people to take this video as me not wanting Poeltl. No, in fact, I actually talked about him last season before the trade deadline, before the Bulls traded for Vucevic, that the Bulls should look at this guy to beefing up their front court, because I personally thought he was one of the more underrated centers in the league. I still think that to this day. Most people probably don't know this, but Poeltl was a former lottery pick. He was the number 9 overall pick from the Raptors in 2016. Didn't have the best first 2 seasons of his career in Toronto, not really getting a ton of playing time, wasn't the best finisher, and not the best at crashing the boards for his size, but you saw that there was potential there. And then he was actually included in that blockbuster trade that the Raptors made for Kawhi Leonard, in which DeRozan was also shipped off to San Antonio in that package as well. And over the years, Poeltl has continued to get better and improve his post-up game, his ability to box out and crash the boards, and even developed a bit of a mid-range jumper, and he's even improved his passing as a big man. Right now, he's having the best season of his career, putting up 13 points per game on 9 rebounds a game. He's actually second in the entire league in offensive rebounds, which is absolutely something the Bulls need. The Bulls are not great on offensive rebounding. He has one of the best field goal percentages in the league at 61%. Granted, he doesn't shoot threes, and I mean like 0 threes. He's only taken 2 3-pointers in his entire NBA career, and more importantly, Poeltl is actually a very great rim protector and shot blocker. So look, I like Poeltl's game and think he would be a great fit on the Bulls, but here is why I think that it's unlikely to happen. First of all, I think it's important to note that even if this report is true, and the Bulls are in fact showing interest in Jakob Poeltl, it doesn't mean that a deal is going to get done. This happens all the time in the NBA, that a given team is interested in a certain player because they fit what they're looking for, but ultimately both sides couldn't reach an agreement. So that's one. The other thing is the fact that I think, although yes, the Spurs are effectively rebuilding, especially with how their season is going right now, but I don't think that means that Poeltl isn't a part of their future plans. I think the Spurs value Poeltl much more highly than they're letting on, and I see him being a big piece for that team in the future, given he's only 26, entering his prime. He's been getting better every season, and he possesses great skills for being a defensive 5 that is now also giving you some scoring that has really started to emerge this season. Now, of course, every player has a price. Poeltl is definitely not untouchable by any means, and I'm sure for the right price, the Spurs would move him. But what would that price look like? And is it too steep for the Bulls if they would need to get him? Now, I had some of you who sent me your trade proposals when I was doing my reaction video to trade packages that you guys had sent me on Twitter. And I've seen some people say, well, we can just trade Tony Bradley or Troy Brown Jr. for Jakob Poeltl. Like, no, that's not even close to being able to get it done. The Spurs can get way more value for Poeltl than that. Like I've said before, you have to consider what the Spurs are trying to accomplish in making a trade and what they're getting out of it. They're not going to want 2 10 to 12th men players for their starting center who is in their prime. Now let's talk about some of the assets the Bulls do have that would actually be enticing for the Spurs, again, given they are likely in rebuild mode and looking to build for the future. Obviously, one of them is the first-round pick that the Bulls have from Portland, but based on what we know of the Blazers, where they are in the standings, and especially after the trades they made yesterday, they're tanking. They're not going to make the playoffs, meaning that pick is going to fall into the lottery, and because the pick is lottery protected, it is not going to convey the season, which doesn't make the pick as attractive in a trade. Still attractive because eventually it will convey, and it is a first-round pick, but whatever team gets that pick in a trade, they're not going to be able to do anything with it, at least for this upcoming draft. outside of that draft pick, the Bulls really don't have other draft picks that they can trade. Like even most of their second round picks are gone. And with all of the first round picks that they did trade, because they can't trade their own first round pick for 2022, 24, and 26 because you can't trade consecutive draft picks in the first round to a team, and Bulls already traded their 2023 and 25 draft picks that they got in the trades for Vucevic and DeRozan. Now, the Bulls do have young pieces that they could move that would be enticing if you're the Spurs. They have Patrick Williams, Coby White, and yes, Dosunmu, even though I'm pretty sure there is no way he would ever be traded after what we have seen from him thus far in his rookie season. But just saying, it's still a young player that has trade value. Troy Brown Jr. and Tony Bradley, both young players, but not high enough trade values outside of just being salary cap filler. So that's kind of all you have. Then you have Poeltl's salary of $8.7 million, which isn't hard to match, but something to be considered. Like a straight trade for Patrick Williams for Jakob Poeltl would get it done just to match salaries. But like, would the Bulls front office even do that? Are they going to give up their first draft pick that they drafted number 4 overall that they believe has huge potential for Jakob Poeltl? I don't think so. I'm sure some Bulls fans who aren't as high on Patrick Williams, yes, they should say you should do that trade, but this front office still places a lot of value on Patrick Williams. A straight trade of Coby White for Poeltl, I don't think that would be enough for the Spurs. Salaries wouldn't match either. You would have to throw in a guy like Tony Bradley or Troy Brown Jr., which I still don't think would be enough. Coby White, yes, a young player, a good scorer, but also inconsistent and is otherwise limited in a lot of other skills. But more than anything, the Spurs are already covered in the backcourt with guys like DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Devin Vassell, and Lonnie Walker. I mean, all young players, by the way. So getting rid of their center to add another guard would just not make sense for the Spurs. Now, you could get creative and add more players into the mix that the Spurs would move, like if you wanted to add Patrick Williams and Coby White in a trade for something like Poeltl and Lonnie Walker, but even then, I don't know if that is a good move on the Bulls' part, because I do still think they're not going to move Patrick Williams unless it's for something more significant. You might be able to throw in the first round pick along with Coby White and Patrick for Poeltl and say maybe Derek White, which I think would be a huge win for the Bulls, but I doubt the Spurs would agree to that. Partially because that first round pick won't be conveyed this season. And then finally, I think the other piece that we also have to consider is the fact that as good as Poeltl is, he's not better than Vucevic, even though I know he made good work of Vuce in the game that they played against each other, and Poeltl would be an upgrade from Tony Bradley as a backup 5, but the fact still remains that the Bulls would need a power forward, a true power forward, to make your starting front court that much more competitive when you're going into the playoffs and facing against a team like the Bucks, Heat, Nets, and Sixers. Now, maybe the Bulls could make another trade to also get that power forward in addition to Poeltl, or maybe involve a third team in this deal to get something done that would also include a power forward. But even then, the fact still remains that the Bulls have limited trade pieces to make a move for Poeltl and a starting 4. So anyway, I don't mean to sound like a pessimist, more so just trying to be a realist in the sense that I can't see a trade for Jakob Poeltl coming to fruition, mostly because I think the Spurs really value him as a player for the future of their franchise, and they're not going to give him up for anything. Granted, I could be completely wrong, and who knows, maybe by the time I upload this video, we'll get a Woj bomb that the Bulls have traded for Jakob Poeltl, which would just be my luck, but I would also find it hilarious at the same time. And yes, I will gladly come on here and admit that I was wrong. I take no issues with that and have done so in the past. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think are some realistic trades that could be done for Jakob Poeltl? Do you think a deal could get done, or are you a bit more skeptical like me? Let me know in the comments, and guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.